Listen up. There's no more excuses.
We're empowering those who want the hustle by exposing the status quo.
The days of ordinary are over.
It's time to crush mediocrity and start discovering your greatest potential.
Welcome to the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle.
Welcome back to Hustle Nation Podcast. Today, we've got a real treat. Our friend Jamar Jones is in the house. Jamar is a business owner, speaker, author of the book Change Your Circle, Change Your Life. He's a visionary who believes in leadership and subscribes to the notion that we could all connect with each other in a relatable way. Jamar's experience inspired him to establish his own branding and media agency, Foureva Media, which we'll talk about. Yep. He is the first African-American business owner to rent out a sports arena for the Lead the Movement Business Conference, also something we need to talk about. He's worked with companies like BMW, Red Bull, VaynerX, and created a brand and audience of over 40,000. Jamar is proud to serve others as a beacon for excellence. His philosophies and intentional action have changed the landscape of his life and lives of others. Jamar, you've got a lot of cool shit going on. Lead the Movement Business Conference, Foureva Media, Young Guns Movement. What's up?
Hey, man. Welcome. Thank you for having me on here. And I got there's a lot happening. I was just at an event yesterday for prevention of gun violence. So supporting a lot of nonprofits. It was downtown. And everybody keeps coming up to me and they're like, hey, so what you got going on? And it's like, it's such a mouthful at this point where I just smile and a lot, man, like I don't even explain it anymore. How
much time do you have?
There's a lot, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And, man, I'm just blessed, man. The hard work and determination and perseverance really just got me to this point. And now, doing cool things like this, man, on the Hustle Mindset podcast, man. So it's dope.
Right on. So we'll get to all these cool ventures, but I want to know about your story. You're a pretty interesting guy. You got your hands involved in a lot of things, business, but also nonprofit, which I love, making an impact in the community of Milwaukee. Yeah. Tell us your story. Where did all this start?
Yeah. So the fast version is, in the beginning, so I did hip hop for about 11 years of my life. So I was a motivational hip hop artist. I worked my way up from the gutter of that. Literally building myself up, working on the promotions, working on the shows. To at my peak, I was doing about 100 shows a year, and I was traveling around. I did 2 tours. I did one in the Midwest and then one on the East Coast. Opened up for T.I., Snoop Dogg, Keisha Cole, Common, Bone Thugs and Harmony, awesome. Yellow Wolf. List goes on and on. And, it was a big part of my life. That's kind of where the entertainment side comes from. And that's kind of why I do it so effortlessly, where it's just a part of me. It's ingrained in me. But that came to a screeching halt when I tore my vocal cords performing at the University of Minnesota. I just strained it, doing way too much. It was 3 shows in one weekend. And it was bad. I mean, I'm kind of, making it look like it was not that big of a deal, but it was bad. I was spitting up blood and everything on the side of the stage. I had my guy there with me, so he was kind of helping me power through. He didn't know what was going on. I didn't really scream. It's just all of a sudden, there was just pain here and stress. And then it was, I couldn't really talk anymore. So I kind of did my Mariah Carey and just lip sing the rest of the the show. And my guy was there, so he was hyping up, and I kept tapping him you just take me home, man. Let's do this. And so that came to a screeching halt. So that's when, so I also was working in IT as well. So I worked my way up from support to an IT manager for a financial company. And that's where I learned a lot about the ins and outs of kind of the beginning of leadership, but also the corporate sector. And then also just from, I'm an IT guy. I'm really a nerd at heart. You can see all the comic stuff behind me.
Love it.
Like I love this stuff. But then that's when I got laid off. So there's about 45 people lost their job. So first I ripped my vocal cords, and then about 2 years of just being depressed after that, because I had to like finish out shows and do stuff, but I couldn't really do music anymore the way of like to the level that I was doing it. I'm like, dude, my dreams got to change like that. And it was hard. I was depressed.
So this was
for 2.5
permanent
years.
damage.
Yeah, it's still there. I've now learned ways to, like, I do speaking and stuff. Like I've learned ways to do what I do with no damage, but like there's not really a solution for it. It's just sometimes, like, especially with like rapping, like you got to go all in, especially on recording too. So I was like, maybe I could just record. And then like if you're doing like a few songs in a night or a long recording session, man, I won't be able to speak for like 2 days. It's pretty brutal. So got laid off from the corporate job, and then just had to decide on what I wanted to do next. And so I started my company then about 7.5 years ago, and I just threw out anything I was kind of good at. I had like 20 different services, and then I just wanted to try my own thing. I've been doing my own thing for so long with the music side, but never in the business side, but they're pretty much the same. You learn a lot when you're doing something for yourself like that with music. And so I'll apply that to business. And so now just been growing that, a lot of ups and downs through Foureva Media, but we're finally getting in that point where people starting to know who we are, and we're really getting known for a few things. And so we're just constantly just, growing and just trying to get bigger and bigger at this point.
I want to take a step back. You said motivational rapper. Is that right?
Yeah.
So at the rap game, and anything in music, but specifically the category of rap, is very competitive. You see a lot of people, just like in business, come and go. Was that your way of differentiating? I mean, obviously, I know you're a motivational guy just in general, but why did you choose that path?
That's a really good question. I don't know why I chose the motivational path. I think through just growth, like just personal growth. In the beginning, like, when you start rapping, you always just start rapping like somebody else. That's just what you do.
Yeah.
You mimic somebody else. And so I was just mimicking other artists, and then eventually I found my own lane. And that's when I stopped really cursing a lot. And then just dove into that motivational side, because I had started to learn and discover things about myself, and I wanted to spread that with others. And just to give that kind of that hope and that freedom and that motivation to do things. And so that's when that's honestly when that's when the uptick happened within my music career, because that's when all the shows start happening and more building up the fan base. And I did those 2 tours I actually did them alongside of Relay for Life. So that's an organization from the American Cancer Society. But it's every single college has a Relay for Life. And so I actually found a creative and unique way of how to get into the colleges and attached myself to those events. And then once I booked the show at the college, I would then book something while I was in town, another show. And that's how I was able to do so many shows.
That's amazing. I feel like you've brought this motivational aspect into business as well. So you found it worked for you there, and almost serendipitously, subconsciously, you brought it into business. Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just what I know now. It's just what I breathe every day.
So, Jamar, one of the things that I heard and kind of throughout that story is the kind of never give up mentality. I think a lot of times, to your point, you said you had to change your dreams at one point, which, for so many people that's a really difficult thing to overcome, especially when in a lot of ways you were on your path.
Yeah.
Right. This wasn't, well, I'm not making progress. I'm not advancing. And so, just from a mental standpoint, even as you sit today, right, you're talking about all the things you're doing with, Lead the Movement and Forever. And there's so many challenges I'm sure you still face each and every day. How do you keep that mindset of that never give up and that trusting the process that you're going through each and every day?
When you're doing something for something that's bigger than yourself, that's the only thing that's going to get you through. So I always tell people you got to have a really strong why. If your why is kind of flimsy, you'll quit instantly. So like if you think about working out and it's like, I just want to get buff. That's a horrible why. Like it's not, it's not, you're going to do it for a little bit and then you're not going to want to do it. And then you're going to be like, it's whatever, but you're not going to push through. So you got to find that strong why. And for me, it's about building legacy. It's about building something and changing lives. And if I stop, I'm going to completely abandon that goal, of mine. And so I'm not really pushing through for myself. I'm pushing through for everybody else. For the time that somebody comes up to me and they're like, dude, like you changed my life in X, Y, and Z type of capacity, or I didn't realize this until I heard this from you, or I got connected with somebody that you connected me with, and that changed the, path of my life. And when you hear those stories, it's like, that's why I push through every single agonizing point where I want to stop. And the goal of it is that if you just don't stop, like things will happen for you no matter what. Sure. It may not be in your timing, but it will happen for you.
So how do you remind yourself of your why?
Oh man. I mean, my reminders are just by, I guess, doing what I'm doing. Like when you hear those stories, and when I have to remind myself, I kind of look back. I mean, it's great for video. It's great for, social media. It's great for just tapping people on the shoulder. I got a really strong circle as well of people I can go to. So if I'm feeling a type of way, I can go to them and be like, am I doing, am I on the right track, man? Like what's going on? And I can talk to some people and then, they'll remind me too. Like, nah, man, like you got to look and reflect. Like you're doing a lot of stuff and like, you just got to stay on this track. And they give me perspective of it.
Jamar, you mentioned something really important about your circle of influence. You wrote a book about change your circle, change your life. I think I got that right. Mm-hmm. I've not read the book yet. But I have a pretty good idea based on the title, what it's about. And I already know I agree with the whole concept. Let's talk about that. I just find that really fascinating.
Yeah. The change your circle, change your life is all about evaluating your current circle and then how do you get into new ones. And it is literally, I put the how-to guide to change anyone's life. If you follow the action steps within that book, it is impossible for you not to change your life. Is impossible. Now, if you shortcut single thing, then, I can't be, liable for that. But if you do every single action, because with action comes results, good or bad. So the circle is all about who do I have around me right now? And I like to give everybody a quick exercise that they can do where it's like, hey, maybe I haven't read the book yet. Quick exercises that write down every single person that's directly influencing your life. So if it's friends, family, coworkers, acquaintances, spouse, anybody that's in that direct kind of contact, you usually contact with these people like every week, every 2 weeks, at least every month. Those are kind of your direct circle. And then write down their name and then put down a plus or a minus by their name. Are they adding to your life or are they subtracting from your life? Just do that exercise and be able to go down the list and then tally up how many negatives you have and how many pluses you have. It's going to be a really good gut check. And don't do it like somebody else is going to see it. Because I told somebody this and they're like, well, what if, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're doing that in the mindset of that person. You're not doing it for you. This is only for you to see. You can crumple it up, throw it in the trash, burn it, if all I care, afterwards. But just look at that and do a quick gut check of, that will really tell you of where you're at in your life. And if you got 50% negative, you got to change some stuff. You got to start putting up barriers. You got to start making some adjustments, maybe making some cuts.
Don't you think most people are 50% negative, if not more?
100%, especially depending on your environment, your upbringing. There's a lot of factors with that, but I do believe that a lot of people don't have that positivity in their life. And that's kind of the quick checkpoint for somebody, and to say like, I gotta change this. And they're wondering why where they're at in their life. That's the first kind of checkpoint. And then you have to figure out, how do I get into new circles? How do I get into these new chapters in my life? And you just have to be intentional about it. You just have to, don't overthink it. You have to be able to go into these new circles and find a way. And honestly, with the internet, it's pretty easy to get into new circles. And you just have to discover a lot about yourself, and then you're able to apply that to getting out to these new circles. So I definitely believe everybody can learn from that, and everybody at any point, personal or business or professionally, like, you have to change your circle. It's impossible to stay stagnant the entire time.
At what
What's
point,
interesting,
though, did you figure this out, that you have to change your circle to change your life?
So it actually happened. It's now 6 years ago. So I got this old video of me. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm doing some kind of live stream with somebody, and I just went on the couch. I was like, man, you got to change your circle, change your life, man. And there was a moment where I just kind of realized, I'm like, how did I get here? How did I get here? And I was like, well, it's the ability to change my circle from music, from IT, from the kind of other entrepreneurial things that I was doing at the time, and then now running my own business. I constantly was able to change my circle and be able to thrive in it. And that was the big awakening for me. I'm like, dude, everybody's got to do this. Everybody needs to do this. They have to do it. If you want to excel, if you want to grow in your career or even in your personal life, like, this is the change that you need.
what's so powerful about that is, as you change your circle, right, you get to learn from other people. You get totally different perspective, right? And to me, I think, that's one of the things that people get stuck when they have a certain circle. If it's, that negative circle you talk about, or even it's just not a circle that's pushing you to, to get better and to be the best version of yourself, right? A lot of us, we only see this part of the world that we see, right? We lack perspective. And when you can open that up and you can change your circle, and that idea of being intentional about it, the reality is, you get intentional trying to expand your circle or change your circle, there's going to be some people you're going to meet that you're going to say, well, they're not going to be in my circle.
Yeah.
Right. You don't bat 1,000 on that.
No.
But at the same point, you get to meet people and talk to people that now all of a sudden you never would have thought would be in your circle. You never would have been able to learn from and connect with, that all of a sudden now are advancing your mindset, your thinking, you achieving your goals and making an impact on others as well.
Yeah, 100%. And it's that's why I always say that if you want to change your circle, first you have to start by changing yourself. And you have to unlock your self-awareness. That is literally, your self-awareness is literally the key to everything. So it's almost, think about like the Matrix. It's like, it's that final door. It's like, I finally got through. Let me talk to the programmer or whoever he was talking to at the time in the movie. But it's that door that you need to break through to know yourself. And there's 3 ingredients. You touched on one of them to unlock your self-awareness. And one of them is perspective. You have to widen your perspective and look at things from a top-down view. The other one is fear. So you have to know how to recognize fear and know how to break through it. And you'll never get rid of fear. It's this fearless thing that people talk, I'm going to be fearless. No one's ever fearless. I've been on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stages, and I still have a little bit of fear right before I go onto that stage. I mean, there's just that thing in your stomach. You're just like, oh man. And you just get up there and you do it. But you have to know how to recognize it and not be paralyzed and or even worse, run away, when you see some fear. You have to know how to break through it. And then the last one is confidence. So you have to build confidence. And then how do you build confidence? It's by giving yourself a shot. It's by trying. It's by making an attempt, doing some kind of action. I like to call it winging it. A lot of people think that everybody has all the answers. It's like most of the people right next to you at your job, they're winging it as well. Even your bosses, even your managers, even the C-suite executives, you'd be surprised. You're like, oh, they should know this. So funny. So funny. They're also winging it as well to a certain degree. I'm not saying 100%. So don't just say I'm like, they're not just jumping off, but they're winging it. They're saying, hey, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to put my best foot forward and have some confidence and figure it out. I think though, if you master those 3 ingredients, that unlocks your self-awareness. And the last one I like to throw in there is self-love. So if you can love yourself first, where those opinions and all that other stuff, like you kind of build up a little bit of that armor to say, I love myself first. And just because you're not riding with my idea doesn't make me a horrible human being, or doesn't make me where I don't know what I'm talking about. So you got to build that up for yourself and love yourself first. But once you do that, I mean, literally sky's the limit of things that you can do and places you can go.
I'm going to have to add this to my queue. I love it. All right. Well, Jamar, let's switch gears. I want to know about Lead the Movement. And obviously I've been following you on LinkedIn and social media for a while. Where did this come from? And obviously it's probably a lot like change your circle, change your life. What was the motivation behind creating an awesome, massive event like this?
Yeah, Lead the Movement Business Conference. It really came to me for 2 reasons. One was that I kind of, through just seeing all these things in business, I'm just like, dude, business is boring. And like, it's boring, it's brutal, and everybody just puts on these masks all day long. And I'm just like, dude, this is not real life. Like, we're not really connecting at this stuff. And so I wanted to add my flavor of entertainment within the business side of it, but through the lens of DEI. So like having like broadening that perspective and looking at things a little different and bringing different cultures and different people into people's circles to have open and honest conversations. And so that's where Lead the Movement was really born. And the second one was, in this agency world, I was kind of tired of being at the client's mercy. that is the other thing, even if you're doing a great job, man, it could take one change in somebody in leadership. And the next thing you know, well, we're making cuts. So, you guys did a great job, but we're moving on to somebody else. And so I wanted to start to creating different properties that we had control of. And not to say that, Lead the Movement Business Conference was not a cash cow. So I just want to make sure that's clear. It was not a cash cow. I lost money. Initially, it was the first inaugural conference on that, but it was about getting out that idea and doing it once. And then once you start to get through that and then do it over and over again, that's where you start to make tweaks. And that's where it can start to, the goal is for it to bring some revenue in. So I also wanted to create another sector of, hey, we can control this. And the conference was absolutely magical. So I rented out the Pfizer Forum. We had amazing speakers and panelists that were part of it on very key topics. We had entertainment woven throughout it. I had a DJ there. We had an experience area where we had a metaverse area. We had esports area, nonprofit area where people could learn about nonprofits. They could play video games on the side. They had a podcast area for people to learn about podcasting and get on a podcast. And there was a concert at night. It was like a magical, like crazy event, crazy idea. And in the testimonials alone, like we have within our platform, the Foureva Movement, people can listen to the podcast that happened there where we brought on all these people. I mean, you listen to that, it'll give you chills of kind of the life-changing moments that happen for people. And it was absolutely incredible. We're going to do it again in 2023. And we're partnering up with Summerfest, and it's going to be absolutely, absolutely incredible.
That's cool. So is a big portion of this event about DE&I?
I would say that all the programming, all the format is always thought through from the perspective of DEI. So that is a big portion of it. Yes. But it's more about how to innovate. So the innovation of branding and marketing, the innovation of recruitment and retention, the innovation of tech, innovation of how we're connecting with communities. That's really what it's about, but it's thinking through the lens of how are we being more diverse and inclusive within our actions.
I like that. I think that's important. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into that subject specifically. In marketing in general, I think that a lot of people, and in leadership too, we could argue, a lot of people and brands are too busy talking at others or telling others what to do, how to do it, pontificating, etc. How do you go about eliciting change or inspiring people to change? Because this is a very important topic in our world today.
Yeah. Man, it's a loaded question. Start? It's a loaded question. I tell people, at least the first thing is, before we get deep into the DEI conversation, it's how do I treat a human being like a human being? So let's just wipe away everything else and say, we are both humans on this world. Let's just listen and let's just connect with one another. That's first and foremost. And how do you do that? You start to take a step. You take a step, have a conversation with somebody, and just shut up and listen. You don't have to have an opinion. You don't have to have a stance. You just shut up and you listen and you just take it in, and you just hear the person out. Whether your views are completely against whatever they're saying, or maybe you just don't understand it, but you need to listen first. And secondly, you don't need to be understood. You just need to take that information in and take some action. So first, for leadership, I say the first step is just by listening. Go to different things that you haven't gone to before. Talk to somebody. Talk to maybe a friend or somebody that has another friend, and just have that conversation and just open it up. And that's the first step of how you're going to really create change, because I can't just give you a bunch of tactics and methods and all that stuff, because you got to start with here first. If you don't start there, especially in leadership, no change. And then the second thing is, change has to come from the top. It can't be this one pet project off on the side for an organization to do this. It's got to start with the CEO, and they got to be 100% on board with it. If they're not, it's going to be, unless there's a whole department dedicated to it with 30 or plus more people, which only bigger organizations like JP Morgan, Nike, Adidas, those kind of companies have. Most companies have like one person that's dedicated to DEI, if that,
at best. Yeah,
and they barely give them any resources, time, or money to be able to do what they need to do. Because they're just like, hey, go work on that. Go work on that. Go show that we're diverse and inclusive. Yeah. That sounds good. And then, go ahead.
So what I think is interesting about that, you talk about basically just treating everyone like a human, having a conversation, but actually listening to gain that perspective. And I think sometimes so many people in this category, they are trying to defend a stance or have a position, as opposed to just learning and asking questions and having real relationships, right? Because at the core, that's what this is about, right? It's about, we all have different perspectives, and let's embrace those. Let's encourage those. Because at the end of the day, to your point of, lead the movement, tying back to innovation, that's what drives the most innovation, right? And if we're all stuck in our one circle without gaining outside perspective, right? You can stifle innovation really, really quickly.
Oh, for sure.
Good point.
For sure. No, it's one of those topics that I love to talk about, because it's I think through that topic, of course, with anything, you're going to hear some of the loudest people on both sides of the argument or the conversation. The loudest people. You think about sports, you hear the same thing. You hear the loudest people on both sides of of the coin. And you're just like, oh my God. But really, most people are in this middle part, and they're just trying to learn and figure it out. And so the first step is always just learning and listening. Anytime I hear something new, I always my first kind of human reaction is like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. But then I say, okay, let me learn about it. Let me learn about it. And I'm not going to make a stance on it. I'm just going to listen. I'm going to listen. I'm going to learn some more of the facts, some more cases of it before I put my stake in the ground and say, this is where I stand on it. Because most people do that way too early. Like they just know everything. And it's like, dude, really? Really? I mean, how are you just going to know? I mean, you got to just at least hear somebody out. It's dangerous to make a stance way too early in anything,
sure.
Business, personal. I mean, it's risky. It's risky.
Yeah. I like how you make this so foundational and so simple rather than political. And it's a way of almost self-awareness. Think about it for a second. Just listen, hear them out. And you go back to basic human emotions. And to me, that is a very fresh perspective that opens my eyes and say, because we can all fall guilty of this in different things from sports to politics, current events, etc. It's like, yeah, you're right. I don't need to have an opinion. I need to listen first before I react, or listen to listen, not listen to react.
Right. 100%. Yeah. It's completely foundational. The fundamentals of it, like I don't go too deep into both sides of anything. I mean, it's literally the actual fundamentals of it and just learning, and just growing as an individual. And most times when you do that, you can at least find some common ground, actually. And it's incredible. And honestly, people would have more of conversations instead of yelling at each other if they would just at least listen to both sides.
Well, and it's interesting you talk about listening to learn. I mean, just listening to your story earlier about all the different changes you've made in your life and in your career and in your goals, that in every aspect, it seems that you've approached it with that kind of lifetime learner aspect. I mean, right. To go from music to IT to then, a speaker, entertainment, event coordinator. I mean, you just start looking at that. I mean, each one of those things, I mean, I got to imagine that event at Fiserv. I mean, just listening to the complexity of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine day in and day out the learnings you had to go through just to pull it off the first time.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm sure the second time now it'll be that much better. But I think so many people, because they feel like, maybe they've made it or that somehow their learnings have a limit to them.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can know. There's only so much I can tackle. They cap themselves in their careers and in their goals and in their impacts that they can have. Sometimes it's listening to learn from a perspective. Sometimes it's listening to learn maybe a skill that's going to allow you to advance.
Yeah. It's so important. You always got to be willing to learn. I just think it's so dangerous for somebody to be like, I just know everything. It's super dangerous to do that. And the conference taught me so much about myself. I learned so much. I now been joking with people that if anybody wants to rent out the arena, hire me as a consultant because I will save you a lot of money. I will save you a lot of money. Like Geico with your car insurance,
because you don't have enough going on. Might as well start another business, right? Let's just do that.
I'm like, man, dude, I learned so much. There's so many hidden fees. Holy crap. So many hidden fees. A lot of the staff are very nice. And I mean, but man, when it comes down to it, for a small business, it's a lot. It's a lot to manage. So, but yeah, always grow, always continue learning. And especially in this landscape, and we talk about branding, marketing, advertising. I mean, you have to constantly keep learning, because if you're stuck, dude, you're going to be like Blockbuster and you get left behind, man.
So one of the things we've seen with a lot of people is someone will look at yourself, Jamar, right, and say, I want to be Jamar. I want that success, right? But they miss the journey that you've gone through and the daily habits, right? Sometimes just the boring daily habits that we do that allow us to stack up wins, right? And so, as you look at tackling each day with all the different things you're going on, is there something that you do to really tackle each day so that you're moving that ball forward each and every day that you could share with the listeners?
Yeah. And I can give you something tactical. So every single day, no matter how busy the day is, I always jot down I usually do it in my system where I kind of just write down notes. But you can do it on pen and pad. But jot down this. So one, you need to put like a dollar sign, let's say, and you could do any kind of symbol. And I'm doing it from a business perspective. So that's kind of how I see myself moving forward. So one thing is a dollar sign and say, did I do anything to increase revenue today? Did I do anything? Write those things down. If you did nothing, why? Why? What was it? The second part is another one is that did I do anything to make things more efficient? So that's the other piece. What did I move forward today? What was it and then why? And then you put down, like I put down kind of a little people icon. And then that one's more of when you have a team and you say, hey, did I move the team forward today? Was there any kind of, and why not? And because those are really the three things in my business that I care most about. Operations, people, cash. Because that's the lifeblood of the business.
For sure.
And of course, the last one, just is if kind of a free note is like, did I learn anything today? And how am I going to apply it? And if you continually do that, every single day, you start to like say, oh man, if all of a sudden you go a week by and you haven't touched that dollar sign in a while, well, that's probably why you're in the space you're in. Because you need to because as a business owner, we have so much to do. And so, but you got to stay true to those core elements of your business. Otherwise, you will get lost and you think that other things are more important when they're not.
That's got to be in the book, right?
Yeah, some form of that is in the book, I believe.
It's all right. We got it out in the public today. That's incredible.
I love it. Jamar, I got to ask something. So you're a motivational guy. In your marketing career, in the book, in the Lead the Movement event, I keep hearing these narratives of leadership. Even in the DE&I subject, there's leadership everywhere. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if leadership is more of a natural thing for people to grow into, or if they can learn it. I just think that through my life, I've just been kind of always drawn to leading people to something. And leadership is just such an important thing to learn and to master if you're going to grow into something bigger than yourself. You have to learn different ways, and I'm constantly learning as a leader myself in this space. And one of the things is that I'm learning also as a leader that you can't do it alone, no matter what you think that you can do. But I can do a lot of stuff, but I can't do it alone. That conference was not done alone. My agency's not done alone. Even me putting out my book was not done alone. I mean, everything. And so you got to lead people. And so learning ways of how to get out your message clear and concise to make sure that people are believing in what you're doing and they're attached to it. So that way, as you're not in the room, it's still being moved forward in the way that it should be. And that's just something that a lot of people need to. Leadership is not just leading with that iron fist. It's leading and supporting others, and just being the person that sets the example, and also knowing when you have weaknesses, and just have those people around you that help balance that. I am not great at everything. There's certain things I've learned, especially in early childhood in school. I struggle with like a lot. And I know that I have people next to me that are excellent at that. And so with that kind of partnership, it's a lot of amazing things can happen, but leadership is the key to getting you, where you want to go. or at least supporting a leader. So that's the other thing. So if you're not kind of naturally, hey, I'm going to lead, I'm just going to go in the forefront. Hey, there's people that are awesome to be able to accompany a leader and be there to support that. You don't have to be this loud, boisterous person in the front to lead. You can lead in different ways. People think of always like, hey, you got to be in front of the audience, front of the crowd to be able to lead. You can be kind of a little bit in the shadows, but still lead people, have those little intimate conversations, talk with people, build them up. And so it's just important to know kind of where you want to be in the role of it. And then just constantly learn in that.
The other thing that I've heard from you, Jamar, is energy, right? So, I mean, you bring in energy. You see it when you're on stage. It sees when you're speaking. I'm sure you are with your team and things like that. And a lot of that comes from when people think about success and business and leadership. And there's a lot of challenges, right? I mean, we talked about overcoming adversity and different challenges you face. How do you kind of manage it all? But I mean, it certainly seems to me like each and every day you're enjoying it, right? I mean, that's where you're getting the energy. And how do you battle that in your head, right? Because there's always the demons in everyone's head, right? Which is the negativity or the struggles you're facing. How do you kind of continue to get up every day and bring that energy like you
do? So I've learned that. So just a quick story. So I actually in high school I used to be a very angry individual.
I find that hard to believe.
I had anger issues like you wouldn't believe. I've talked to counselors, priests, pastors. I went to therapy. I was very angry for a few, like at least maybe 5 years of my life. Got into fights. I mean, I was pissed off at the world. And so through that, I learned a lot about how to control your energy. And so when you talk about energy, when I'm having those down days, I either do one or two things. I just try to push through it, knowing that tomorrow's going to be a better day. So kind of thinking further than what the present is giving me. So like, man, today kind of sucked. The client didn't pay on time. I got to pay employees tomorrow. Also that one deal fell through, and also I'm having issues, inside the business where nobody knows where this one file is at. I don't know. I'm just throwing out an example.
Yeah.
Today kind of sucked. Like I didn't make any money. The operation sucked. And the people are, they're all over the place. So I got to say, okay, do I just fret on that right now? Is that going to ruin my day, or do I just look forward to the next day? So that's what pushes me through, where I don't get down on myself so much. It's kind of like worry until you really need to worry about something. And then the second thing is, like, if I get to a place where I really like it's really weighing on me, you got to give yourself room and space to actually just have that happen. You got to just give yourself the moment of just getting out whatever you need to get out. And just kind of, hey, do I go off and do something that just helps me clear my head? Do I have a cry? Do I have, where I talk to somebody about it? You have to get out that emotion and then keep moving forward. Don't bottle it up. So that's kind of how I say so positive, or so, where the energy is always good, on this, is that I kind of evaluate those situations every single time, and I just do what's appropriate. And I kind of learned that from all the therapy and all the other things when I dealt with how to manage your anger and how to manage, that stress.
That's incredible. One of the messages we talk about a lot, and I actually heard from a friend, was windshield.
Yeah.
Right. If you're looking in the rear view or just in the present, right. But if you're always windshield, there's always something to look forward to.
Always. There really is. There always is something to look forward to. And, today is not determining your tomorrow. I mean, you can totally change. It could totally be different. And most times in business, it is like, you might have a day that just sucks. Yeah. And next thing you know, the next day it's like, oh, I had 3 clients pay on the same time. It's like, I've been waiting for this for like a week.
For sure.
but that's just kind of what happens. That's just the name of the game. It's ebb and flows. It goes up and down.
It's interesting you say that, and I've always said you have to be graceful with yourself. And on those days, I think you have to look around. Sometimes you do have to sit back. But I think if you take that moment and you look around, you'll see that God has opened a door, sometimes multiple doors. And I heard on a podcast recently, someone expounded upon this idea, and he said, you know what? Most people don't even get up to walk to the door. So at least get up, walk to the door, see what's through that door, because there's bound to be an opportunity, large, medium, small, on the other side.
Yeah.
And so we talked about this even on a previous episode. There's opportunities aplenty, but you got to get up and walk through that damn door.
You have to. You got to take a step. I mean, it's crucial, man. You got to do something, do some action. One foot in front of the other is what a lot of people say.
Yeah. Okay, Jamar, final question. We got a lot of leaders, coaches, entrepreneurs who listen to the show. What would be one piece of advice that might be your favorite, or one piece of advice that you feel like you just love to share?
One piece of advice
Could be anything.
I mean, it was kind of a broad stroke one, because I feel like entrepreneurs are a little different than maybe leaders of companies, and I mean it's kind of a different spaces and times that people are in. But I would say that, and I just was talking about this, but have the mentality of failing fast. You don't have to have this perfect scenario for a long period of time. A lot of I just think the days of I'm going to build this, year-long strategy that's going to, we're in this trajectory and we're going to have all these goals and all this other stuff. It's awesome to have goals, but man, try some stuff, do things in iteration, fail fast and learn from it, and then correct that. And this kind of comes down from my IT background, where with software, you have to fail fast and you got to be able to pivot and change and correct and grow with that. Learn from the market. How do you apply it? And that's what's going to help you get to where you're trying to go. So many people get paralyzed with just that fear of oh man, it's got to work. It's got to be perfect. And I think about my conference, dude, in the behind the scenes, it was not perfect. But from everybody else that went there, they're like, dude, it blew me away. It looked like it was flawless. A lot of people don't even realize that we started 30 minutes late. And people don't even realize it. They're like, dude, I didn't realize it. And somehow we got back on track and by lunch. And I honestly, I don't still know how my team did that. But
Seems
there was
miraculous.
a lot of mayhem that was happening. But we just did it. We took a chance. We tried something. And I think a lot of companies and entrepreneurs get stuck in hey, the tried and true. This is what got us here, so we're just going to stay in this. And we're not going to try anything new. We're afraid to pivot and change in those different areas. You got to be willing to try and then learn from it and then keep going. And you can make so much more progress than just these long, drawn out things. Next thing you know, you tally the box of what did you achieve? And there's 2 things. And it's small. It's that would be my one advice of doing this, because I think changing my circle again and again, I've learned how to fail fast and make those changes and to have really, exponential growth.
And that circle continues to change, it sounds like.
Always. It will until I'm no longer able to change it, man. It's because it's the key. I mean, somebody, I'm kind of stealing this from Grant Cardone, but somebody's got what you want, right?
Yeah.
And if you get to that, if you go to a new circle, you will open up another opportunity, and somebody's got it. Somebody's got that opportunity sitting right there for you. You're not going to get it just sitting in your same circle. So I'm always going to be changing my circle and seeing what's out there.
Great perspective. Jamar, well, let's put a bow on this thing. tell everybody, our lovely listeners, where they can find you, where they can find that book. And if you want to pepper in a little bit about the Lead the Movement coming up, let's hear it.
Yeah. So everybody can connect with me on LinkedIn, all our social platforms. Go to IamJamarJones.com. IamJamarJones.com. And we have all my socials on there. You can check out our podcast. You can check out all the stuff we got going on. Also, our agency is Foureva Movement. That's Foureva Media. So forevermedia.com. That's our agency. And then the book, Change Your Circle, Change Your Life, is on Amazon. So you can check that out as well. So go ahead and grab you that. And yeah, our to get up to date with our Lead the Movement business conference is going to be the day we are shooting for is September 29th. It's going to be an awesome event. Definitely check it out. That's ltmconference.com that you can see all the updates there. We're going to be working on the announcement. You're kind of hearing it before it's officially announced on here. So I don't know when this releases, but definitely check that out and get queued on for the updates. And then we have the Foureva Movement, which is our membership platform, more for people that are entrepreneurs or people that want to grow in their career and change their circle. And so we have an educational platform that we build up courses and content and trainings to help people. And also we have micro events. So you're invited to those micro events by becoming a member on there as well. So I know I just threw out a lot, but I got a lot going on.
There you go.
Dustin, final thoughts.
Yeah, Jamar, thank you for joining us. There was a ton of really good nuggets here. I think your success in many ways speaks for itself, but I think what's even more exciting is you can tell there's so much more in front of you. And excited to have this conversation, and we'd love to have future conversations as well.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate it.
For me, it's just interesting. I think the more we have these conversations with great leaders like yourself, leadership is everywhere. And one of the key takeaways for me is really, you just have this continued vision for the future, this continued optimism. And I think that's a big catalyst for your success and your future success. So I just want to say thank you for being on the show. That was a lot of fun. You never cease to amaze me. I know our audience can find you everywhere. And I hope we can have you back on the show at some time in the future.
Yeah, it sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Hustle Nation podcast. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Thank you for being part of the Hustle Nation. Until next time, stay hungry and inspire those around you to hustle.